Behind every locked door lies a story the world was never meant to hear. Welcome to Behind Bars TV, where we uncover the hidden realities of the world's toughest prisons, untold inmate experiences, and the systems built to contain them. From supermax facilities to forgotten penitentiaries, we revealed the truth behind concrete walls and razor wire. This is not fiction. This is the world behind bars. The courtroom before everything went wrong. Courtrooms are designed to feel intimidating. The high ceilings, the polished wood, the raised bench where one person sits above everyone else. It's a reminder. This room is not a debate stage. It's a place where rules exist for one reason: control. On this day, the courtroom was scheduled to handle multiple defendants. Routine cases, routine procedures. Nothing about the docket suggested chaos. But one defendant would change everything. The defendant who didn't fit the room. From the moment he stepped forward, court officers noticed him. Not because he looked dangerous, not because he was violent, but because he was defiant. He didn't stand still, didn't keep his hands folded, didn't lower his eyes when the judge entered. Small things. But in a courtroom, small things matter. Multiple defendants, one problem. This wasn't a private hearing. Other defendants sat nearby, waiting their turn, watching closely. Most understood the unspoken rules. Speak only when spoken to. Answer clearly. Do not interrupt. But this defendant wasn't waiting. He was watching the judge like a challenge. The first interruption. The judge began addressing the charges. Before the sentence was finished, the defendant spoke. Not loudly, not aggressively, but out of turn. The judge paused. That pause mattered. The judge's first response. Judge calm. Sir, you'll have your opportunity to speak. Do not interrupt. No anger. No threat. Just instruction. Most defendants stop right there. This one didn't. Confidence turns into disrespect. Instead of apologizing, the defendant exhaled sharply. A laugh, barely audible. Then he spoke again. This time louder, more confident, as if the courtroom was a conversation he could dominate. The warning that changed everything. Judge, this is your final warning. Interrupt again, and there will be consequences. The room went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. Everyone except him. What the defendant misunderstood. Some people mistake calm for weakness. They assume that if someone doesn't raise their voice, they don't hold power. That mistake ends lives in different ways. In this case, it ended freedom. The line he should never have crossed. Instead of stopping, the defendant questioned the judge. Not the process. Not the charge. The authority. That's the line. The moment the judge decided. Judges don't react emotionally. They decide. And in that moment, the decision was already made. The judge leaned forward. The room felt smaller. For words that ended the hearing. Take him into custody. No shouting. No explanation. Just instruction. Realization comes too late. The defendant froze. His confidence vanished. His body language changed instantly. Now, he wanted to explain. Now, he wanted to cooperate. But courtrooms don't run on regret. The sound of handcuffs. The sound echoed. Metal on metal. A sound everyone in that room understood. The hearing was over. Why the judge didn't hesitate. Judges allow conversation. They allow emotion. What they do not allow is loss of control. Because once control slips in a courtroom, everything collapses. The other defendants watching. The message wasn't just for one man. It was for everyone watching. This is not a place to test limits. What happens after the gavel falls? Courtroom moments like this don't end when the gavel falls. They echo. As the judge called for the next case, the room felt different. Heavier. More controlled. The other defendants sat straighter now. Nobody whispered. Nobody shifted. Because they had just watched what happens when someone forgets where they are. The defendant in custody. The defendant was escorted out of a courtroom and into a holding area. No speeches. No last words. Just procedure. Moments earlier, he believed he had leverage. Now he had none. In custody, confidence drains fast. The room is smaller. The air feels heavier. Time slows down. This is where reality settles in. Why some defendants push authority. Court psychologists have long studied this behavior. Why do some defendants challenge authority when the consequences are obvious? The answer isn't stupidity. It's miscalculation. Some people mistake rules for suggestions. Others believe dominance is a survival tool. And some have spent their lives in environments where pushing back worked. But a courtroom is different. Here, authority isn't negotiable. The judge's perspective. Judges are trained for moments like this. They don't see disrespect as personal. They see it as risk. A courtroom without control is dangerous. For staff, for defendants, for the justice system itself. That's why judges act decisively, not emotionally. Decisively. Why the judge didn't warn him again. Some viewers ask, why didn't the judge give him another chance? Because warnings are not infinite. The first warning is grace. The second is clarity. After that comes enforcement. In this courtroom, the defendant had already crossed the threshold. The silent message to everyone watching. This moment wasn't just about one man. It was about precedent. Every courtroom runs on examples. And this example was clear. Disrespect will be answered immediately. Not later. Not privately. Immediately. When realization finally hits. For the defendant, realization came slowly. In waves. First confusion. Then frustration. Then regret. Now the words he wanted to say didn't matter. Because courtrooms don't rewind. They move forward. What this moment means for future hearings. When the next defendant stepped forward, the difference was immediate. Respectful tone. Clear answers. No interruptions. One incident had reset the entire room. That's how authority works when exercised correctly. Why these videos go viral. Courtroom videos like this go viral for one reason. They show consequences in real time. No editing. No second chances. Just a clear line crossed and an immediate response. People don't watch because they love punishment. They watch because they recognize power when they see it. The lesson the defendant learned too late. Courtrooms are not places to test boundaries. They are places where boundaries are enforced. This defendant believed he could push just a little further. He was wrong. And in that moment, with one sentence, the judge reminded everyone watching, authority doesn't need to shout. It only needs to act. After the order is given, the moment the judge spoke, the room stopped breathing. Take him into custody. No explanation followed. No clarification was offered. Court officers moved with practiced precision. They didn't rush, but they didn't hesitate either. This wasn't personal. This was procedure. The defendant looked around, as if searching for someone to step in. No one did. Because once a judge makes that call, the moment has passed. The defendant tries to recover. Now his voice changed. Gone was the confidence. Gone was the defiance. He tried to explain. He tried to clarify. He even tried to apologize. But explanations only matter before the line is crossed. The judge didn't respond. That silence was intentional. Why apologies don't work in that moment. Courtrooms aren't emotional spaces. They don't operate on regret. They operate on order. Once a defendant challenges the authority of the court in open session, the issue is no longer attitude, it's control. And control must be restored immediately. That's why apologies after the fact don't reverse decisions. The walk out of a courtroom. As officers escorted him toward the exit, the courtroom remained silent. No murmurs. No reactions. Everyone was processing the same realization. This could have been avoided. The doors opened. The defendant stepped through. And the courtroom returned to order. The effect on the other defendants. Something changed in the room. Posture straightened. Voices softened. When the next defendant was called, they spoke carefully, choosing every word like it mattered. Because now they understood something clearly. This judge does not bluff. The judge continues the docket. The judge didn't address what happened. He didn't lecture. He didn't explain. He simply moved on. That's how authority works. It doesn't need commentary. The message had already landed. Why some defendants push back? Some defendants enter court already defensive. They feel unheard. They feel targeted. They feel powerless. So they try to reclaim control the only way they know how, by pushing back. But a courtroom is the one place where pushing back escalates consequences instantly. The thin line between speaking and disrespect. They expect questions. They expect emotion. What they do not tolerate is disruption. That line is thin, but it's real. Crossing it turns participation into defiance. What happens after custody? Once removed from the courtroom, the consequences continue. Additional charges may be added. Bond conditions can change. Future hearings become stricter. One moment in court can ripple through an entire case. And it all started with not knowing when to stop. The courtroom remembers. Courtrooms remember moments like this. Not emotionally, but structurally. Officers stay alert. Judges remain firm. Defendants tread carefully. One person's mistake recalibrates the entire room. Why this moment went viral? This moment spread because it felt real. No editing. No script. No drama added. Just a sudden shift in power, captured live. People watch because they recognize the lesson instantly. Authority only needs to be challenged once. The cost of not reading the room. The defendant didn't lose his freedom because of one sentence. He lost it because he ignored every warning before it. Courtrooms speak quietly until they don't. And when they stop being quiet, consequences arrive immediately. Control is the real issue. This wasn't about ego. It was about order. Judges protect the process because without it, justice collapses into chaos. That's why even small disruptions are addressed forcefully. Not out of anger, but necessity. The lesson defendants learn too late. They replay the moment. They recognize the warning signs. But courts don't rewind. They move forward, with or without you. Final thought. The courtroom didn't raise its voice. It didn't argue. It simply reminded everyone of one truth. Respect isn't optional in places built on authority. And once you push too far, the system responds instantly. What you just saw is more than a story. It's a reality lived by thousands behind bars. If you believe in uncovering the truth, the kind hidden behind concrete walls and silence, then join us. Subscribe to Behind Bars TV and never miss a chapter in the world's most dangerous stories. Until next time, stay aware, stay informed, and stay locked in. Until next time, keep your mind open and your curiosity sharp. Remember, freedom and confinement are sometimes only a wall apart.